What is up, peeps? I want to preface this video by saying I have made a version of this video no less than about 10 times. No less than about. Because I kept forgetting things and I had to write everything down step by step. Now, if I forget them, that's fine. I can just go back and fix it. But I saw a lot of the problems that you are going to run into. I am going to open up things. They are going to give me problems. And because I know which files are going to give me problems, I'm going to open up some stuff that is going to be that I've not opened up before because I just bought some assets for the asset browser and I am going to work through them. You're going to watch me make mistakes. Since I do teach online, I let all my students see all of my mistakes without exception. So this is my introduction video. This is the introduction for the YouTube video. This is broken up into parts, but the video itself, as you can see, is very long. So this is the asset browser. It's really tedious to do some of this stuff, just to be very honest with you. And again, for absolute beginners out there, you're going to find some of this very tedious. You may need to take some breaks. You're going to make some mistakes. It's okay. I'm going to talk through this step by step and I'm going to go very slow. So to some of you out there, if you are more experienced with Blender, this may not necessarily be the tutorial for you because I am taking my time with this. I'm not going to rush through anything. It takes as long as it takes, but I do want to thank you for clicking on the video. Like, share, subscribe, all the other stuff, blah, 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 something about the algorithm, etc., etc. But I do want to teach you guys how to do this because I kept running into certain problems. And yeah, this is my little intro. It's a weird intro, but just to let you know, just grab some coffee and patience and let's get into this. So here we are in Blender. What I want to do is give you a big picture overview of this so that you will have kind of an understanding, hopefully we'll have an understanding of what exactly it is that we're about to do. So before we get into dividing the screen up and accessing the asset browser, let's take a look at a big concept here. So go over to Clip Studio Paint here. So what you want to do, we got Blender here, right? It's our Blender right here. This is Blender, like the little Blender chicken thing. And so this is Blender. This is our screen. And what we want to do is we want to either create assets or we are going to download them. Some of them might be free. Most of them are paid. And we want to take the assets and place them into the asset browser. So now we have assets there. We got some buildings, we got some cars, whatever, so that we can drag them into our scenes. But in order to do this, you're going to need to get organized first of all. And that's what this first part is about, is being organized. If you are already organized, you can just kind of skip over this. But because I wasn't organized as a 2D artist going into 3D, I had to learn the hard way. We're going to take the 3D models. You are going to import them into Blender. We are going to then make any adjustments that we have to make. So sometimes models come in and they're not right side up. You got to fix that, and then we're going to hit Control A. We're going to go through all of it, so don't worry about it. Control A, and you're going to apply all transformations. Sometimes things are going to be attached to empties, and you're like, what's an empty? Don't worry about all that. Let's just say it doesn't look pleasant as far as how things are set up. Everybody sets up stuff a little bit differently. Everybody who either sells models or whatever sometimes are just set up a lot differently. We may have to join some things together. We may have to separate some stuff. We're going to make whatever adjustments we have to make, and then we are going to save the active file as a .blend file. So we have to save it. Let's call it file.blend. We have to save it as a .blend file, but we don't save it in our little download folder or the 3D folder that I'm going to show you. That is probably a pretty good idea to keep. We're going to save it as a .blend file in the asset browser. When we save this file, then we can do things like create the subcategories and all of that other stuff, right? That you're seeing when you're looking at people's videos explaining this to you. And within the asset browser, we're not just going to save it in this folder. We're going to save it in the individual little folders that we are going to create, right? Now, I wrote this down because it reminds me. FBX, so .fbx. I think it stands for film box. It's like Maya Max, but a lot of people have FBX files. These files come in textured. They have the textures on them. We can also mark our textures or materials as scene or materials as assets. This is much less of a headache. Way less of a headache for me personally. Now, I don't get too super deep into all of the interworkings of Blender, and I forget stuff like everybody else. But I just know when I import things into FBX and I mark them as assets, then my life is a lot better. And that's what I want, a good life. So I'm going to go here to the actual location where I have this public folder. And you can see I have 3D models. This is where I keep my 3D models that I've downloaded. I've organized them in a way. So I got some anatomy files. I got some architectural buildings. That's what arc build means. I got base meshes. These are models. That's kind of how they came in. And it reminds me, oh, these are my mannequin-esque stylized base meshes. I might have to change the name of the folder, but that's okay. This is from, obviously, the Blender class. And I got some, these I saved as Blender OBJs. That's also from the class, so I should just put that in there. I have a DAZ 3D export because this is where I am going to bring in some DAZ. I'm not doing that here on this video, obviously, but DAZ Studio, for those of you that work with it, you can have Blender files there, and I'm going to do just that. I'm going to save them as FBX, by the way, and then import them. Not going to do it in this video. So I got some other stuff in here. And oh, by the way, I also have Kitbash 3D that I downloaded the native Blender files, and I also downloaded the Kitbash in FBX because this is just a little bit better for Blender for me. Again, I know I'm reiterating that. So let's go back to a folder. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to create a folder that says Blender Asset Browser. Okay? So you're going to create this folder that says Blender Asset Browser. You can put it wherever you want to put it. You don't have to put it where my location of my file is. So we're going to go inside of the folder, and then we are going to make a new folder. So we're going to right click. We're going to go new. And let's just say, let's add some folders here. You can add however many folders that you want. I am just going to go with architecture. You can put buildings if you want. You don't have to name anything like me. I am also going to put vehicles. And these are where I'm going to save these FBX files. I am going to put people, animals, and that could be creatures too. I'm also gonna do one that I can make as many of these as I want, so that's not gonna make too much of a difference. But I just want to keep these very simple. I just want to keep these very simple. so that we're not getting too overwhelmed. So I have these set up. So now I've already got it opened up because I just think it's better to have some things opened up when I'm recording. So I'm going to get rid of this. So here I am in Blender. So before we even try to open up the asset browser, if we go to File, and then if we go to Edit, so sorry about that. If we go to Edit down to Preferences, we're going to open up our preference window. That's here. We're going to go down to File Paths, and right underneath here, so you may not have it activated, there is Asset Libraries. Now, Blender may have already given you a default path. That is very possible. If you want to delete it, you can. I would say just go ahead and delete it. We're going to navigate to these folders individually. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on Add Asset Library. So I'm just going to hit pause, but I'm going to click onto Add Asset Library. Okay, so I clicked onto Add Asset Library. I just don't like going through my files publicly. I'm an old dude. I'm Gen X. I like my privacy. So now I am here in public. I know that the folder that I'm looking for, the master folder, says Blender Asset Browser. And let me go ahead and we can make this extra large. So here are my 4 folders. And I'm going to go into this. So if you haven't done this, please do so. We're going to go to Blender Asset Browser, double click, and I'm going to add my first folder. Now, don't just click and hit Add Asset Library. I like to double click on it so it actually opens up the library, and I can look at the top and see that it is giving me the pathway, and I go Add Asset Library. So I'm going to add that. Now, this is red, so if I lengthen this out, we can see that this is going to that particular location. Sometimes you may do this and you may not, and you may just go to the Asset Browser folder. So all I'm going to do, the only thing that I'm going to do is type in animals, because I want to name my folder. You can name this whatever you want to name it, but I just like having the name match up because it makes it easier. I'm then going to go in and add the rest of the folders. So I'm going to pause. I want you to do the same thing and add the rest of those folders. Okay, I just want to be kind of nitpicky here. So I'm going to add this people folder. I'm going to hit Add Asset Library. And just in case, because when you're a beginner, I don't know what you don't know, right? So I'm going to type in people. And then I hit enter. I know that's a weird thing to say. Of course you're going to hit enter, but I don't know. Maybe you just possibly couldn't know. Let's just go ahead and add the other one here. So I'm going to add here. I'm going to go back up. I'm going to click this little up arrow, and I'm going to add vehicles. I'm going to click onto it and make sure that the path is there. And then I am going to vehicles. Then I'm going to hit enter. And so now these paths match up to this folder structure. You can add as many as you want. But this is where we are going to save. After we've done everything that we have to do, we are going to save our .blend files in these folders right here. All right, and also before you close, I have auto save preferences on. You can just hit Save Preferences just to double check. Nothing wrong with double checking. Nothing wrong with saving to save. So now what we want to do is we want to now open the asset browser. You can open this from the bottom over here. Here's my little mouse. I'm going to go down here and we're looking for the double arrow. You can pull this up. You can turn the timeline into your asset browser. So over here, right where this little clock symbol is, we're going to go down, and then we are going to go over down to where it says Asset Browser, not File Browser. Very important. We can go Asset Browser, and it says Current File, There's nothing here, so you can't see anything. We're not going to see anything until we bring stuff in. There's all and there's unassigned. But if we go up here to current file, if I click on the little menu, then we see that animals, architecture, people, vehicles, all of that is there. It matches up with the file system that we set up. So that's very important. Now, if you want, you don't have to have the asset browser down there. You can go over here because some people put their asset browser over here. And so let me do this again. And I'm sorry about this. So you want to go over here to the corner, and it's going to look like a target. It's a plus sign, but it has a little bit of a space in the middle. We're going to click and drag. Let's try that again. I'm going to drag. See, so if you do this, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just go over here till it turns into a plus again. Click and drag the opposite direction. The active screen is going to light up. The other screen is going to dim out, and you drag it over and you release your left click. Now, if we want to make this a little bit longer, we're going to look for the double arrow, and we're going to make this a little larger. As a matter of fact, let's just make it large so we can see what's going on. I am now going to go up here to the corner where you see this little hashtag. It looks like it's in perspective, and it's the 3D viewport. Just like this is the 3D viewport, we're going to click onto this little drop down menu into our icon, and then we're going to go over and click onto Asset Browser. It looks like a little icon for a bookshelf. And this is your asset browser, and you can see we have our same folders there. So I'm going to stop this right here, and then I will see you in the next video. So let's create a file. Let's pretend like we have made the greatest models ever. So what I want you to do is make some boxes here. And when you are creating your own files, then I would strongly suggest just go ahead and create some boxes here so we can see how this works. And let's see here. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to select. No, you know what? Let me click here. I'm going to add a new material, and I just want to give it a base color. So just add a new material. Oh, select the box. Go down here to this little global symbol. That's the material. We're going to go over to base color. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to turn this blue. Now, if you don't see that it's blue, you just got to go over to the material preview. So it's previewing your materials. And we can click over to these other cubes, and I can click here. I can add new because I can put a new material on here, but I'm not going to go in. This is not about the materials, but this will illustrate a point here. So now I have all of these right here. I'm going to put these in architecture because I think we've now worked for the past 17 hours making these amazing architectural pieces right here. We're going to win awards. We're going to package these together. People are going to buy them. We're going to be millionaires. It'll be awesome because we have these random buildings that don't at all look like plain cubes. So what we're going to do is you can, so let's do it this way. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to mark as asset. So I marked this first one as an asset, and it's over there. Look at that, it's over there. Now, I also can go down here to the material for each individual model, and I can right click and I can mark as asset. So now you can see the material over here. It is unassigned, right? It's not doing anything constructive or whatever. It's just unassigned. And if I want to, I can add for catalog, and I can place material materials. This is my current file. If I want to go to unassigned, I have to go back to unassigned. I can go to all, go to unassigned because we have not assigned these for anything. Now, if we just go over here and just place this in here, it's like, okay, that's fine. That's a material. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back. So we have this marked as an asset. I need to mark the rest of these as assets. I want to click onto here. I'm going to drag this over there. Now, I like to mark assets in a way that that's unusually long there. I like to go into wireframe, select everything to make sure that I have select everything. You will see why later on. So I have all these. I can right click and I can just go mark as asset, and it just marks all of these as assets. And so now they are over here. So now let's go back here. Let's go back here. Let's grab this asset, the red one. Let's mark this material as asset. Left click, mark as asset. So now what I want to do, out of all of these buildings that I've created, I want to go over here and I want to save as. We're going to call this super awesome buildings or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to save it in our architectural folder. So I'm going to go click, hit save as, and here we are in our folder. So we have to save this as a .blend file into our asset browser. I'm going to go to architecture, and I'm going to call this awesome buildings. Awesome buildings. And we're going to save this right here. So it is saved, right? All this is categorized. So we have to, let's go ahead and grab this. We're going to click and drag over to materials, and I'm just going to save it again. Save and save often. All right. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to get up out of this altogether. So if we go to architecture, we could look at architecture and see, okay, here we go. It's in architecture. This should be there. So let's go ahead and get out of this. Let's close this down. And this is how you check. So I'm opening up, I'm closed down Blender, I'm opening up. You can see I have this one on the bottom. Let's not confuse you there. I will just pull this over. And I'm going to go over here. We're going to go down to Asset Browser. So now I'm going to go into Architecture. Hopefully, well, hopefully we will see when I click on to Architecture, we should see our awesome buildings, and we also should see the subcategory. Aha, look at that. So we got our awesome buildings. We have our materials, and if we just want to isolate the materials, we can. Now, if you wanted to put these into other subcategories, the thing is you have to have that file be the current file, right? Let me show you what happens here. So if I add this and I go and I just say buildings, unless this is a bit different, we'll go back to all. I'm going to shift click. I'm going to put these into buildings. Let's try that again. I'm going to place this into, only assets from this current file can be, so that's what I'm saying. So you would have to open back up this file. So let's get out of this. Don't save. And we're going to go back to Blender. I'm going to wait for it to. So I'm going to click on Awesome Buildings. That's our .blend file. So now this is the current file. I'm going to add, and I'm going to add buildings. Okay, let's try that again. Buildings. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to Oh, wait. Okay. So I'm going to go back to all. Now I'm going to select here. I'm going to move these into buildings. It doesn't look like anything happened. But if I go to buildings, I just get this. If I go to materials, I just get this. So now what I want to do, since I've moved this around, I want to go in and I want to save this. Okay. So now let's check our work. And I know I can open up a new instance of Blender. I get it, but I just want to be very step by step. So we're not going to do any of that. Let's not be confusing. We're going to go over to the asset browser. And now I'm going to go to, we saved it in architecture. So I want to show you where it's saved at. So it's saved in architecture. And so we see we got awesome buildings. And look at this. We have a category text file. And that's going to give us our categories. So do not get rid of those files unless you want to get rid of the categories. And you can also see that awesome buildings is saved in as a .blend file. Very, very important. So I'm going to go over here, architecture. Let's widen this out. So I got my materials right here. So now these are my materials. And look, I got buildings. So now when I drag this out, and drag this out, I now have materials. And I can just drag the materials on there. Let's let's actually be able to see the materials. That'd be cool. Oh, and I think that was the other material that I dragged out. But I can do this. That's what makes this dope. All right, so there we go. So that is the Blender asset folder. Now, if you're going to save this as a scene or you're saving this as a brand new blend file, obviously you want to go over here and just hit save as. Whatever you want to save it as, that is not going to affect. That's not going to affect or override your asset blend files unless you rename it the same thing. So there you go. And this, you can save this wherever you want to save it. If you want to have a folder that says Blender scenes, that's not a horrible idea. Go ahead and save it there. But that is the gist of the asset browser. I hope you found this really helpful. And yeah, so I'm going to stop there. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to import different kinds of file sizes, the problems that I've ran into, and all of that. But this is the basics of using the Blender asset browser. So this is where we're going to have lots of fun. And by lots of fun, I mean, this is, oh my goodness. I want to show you this, and I want to show you that this can be frustrating because this is going to happen. It's once we get the asset browser set up, then it's all smooth sailing. And I've deleted a bunch of folders over and over again, obviously making the videos. But I'm just going to get rid of this. Just going to go with new, general. I'm not going to save anything. It's not. And this is how I have my asset browser set up like this because of Unreal Engine. Used to just pulling it in there, pulling it from the bottom over there. But I also like the side version. And this is my default that I have set up. So I have this set up like a default. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back in here in the architecture, and I'm going to get rid of that. All I have to do is just get rid of it. Because I don't, I'm not going to use that. So people is empty. All these are just empty folders. And what I want to do is go back to my 3D models. Now I want to import some stuff. So I am going to import some OBJ files. I want to save them, and I want to save them as .blend files. So now some of this, I am readily going to admit, some of it may be because I just didn't, this kind of thing did not come up, and you can always look online and look for the answers. But sometimes I just think that I don't want to make things difficult. So let's go with OBJ files. So underneath this arc build, I got an OBJ file that says Sci-Fi Volume 1 OBJ. All right, I'm going to import this. And I am going to hit pause because I do know sometimes with OBJ files, depending on how big the file is or how many things are in it, then it can drag while I'm recording. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit import. I don't want to drag in. For some reason with Blender, if I try and just drag the file in, it takes a little longer. It's just easier for me to import. I'm going to go down to Wavefront OBJ and I'm going to load that. Okay, so I brought the file in, right? And this is what I'm seeing. I am seeing this. If I look over here, it says Sci-Fi Volume 1. There's this little triangle. Click onto this, Sci-Fi Volume 1. And all over here. So I'm gonna zoom out. There's some stuff here going on. So you would think, so let's just go ahead and do this. Because this is what let's go back to the asset browser. Now, I'm going to save. So now I can't even really see this. I definitely should hit S and scale it down, right? So hit S and scale this down. And I have everything selected here, it looks like. And I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to shift click and select these. And I'm going to mark as assets. Okay. So let's give it a second. And I'm showing you this because I know someone out there is going to go, what is going on? Right? So what are we doing here? So wait, so now I'm thinking like, okay, well, can I separate these? Wait, every time I click onto one, they all get selected. And this isn't helping me. Bin, IS, what does this even mean? Now, this has nothing to do with Blender. Sometimes people just set up things in different ways. Even if we save this as a .blend file, that's not really going to help us out. We've marked everything as assets. Right? So that's why. So let's import some more. I'm not going to save this. Just showing you some of the stuff that I'm running into where I'm just like, okay, really? So I'm going to import. Let's see what we got here, because I want to look at some other OBJ files, because everybody's OBJ files look a little bit differently. Okay, so I have in here, I have something called the Sci-Fi Buildings Pack. Right, so I'm going to go here, click on here. Now, this one says render. It's got a render of these. This OBJ, these are all the OBJs. And these are the FBXs. So, I am going to now go into that folder and I'm going to import the OBJs. Okay, so I do want to show you that I navigated to this and there's 30 of them. So I'm going to shift click and now I'm going to hit import OBJ. I am going to pause it because it might take a while or it might be quick. And it was quick because it only imported one. By the way, I knew that, but I just know that when you are, you're like, oh, this will be great. I'll just import everything. I'll just batch import things. With your beginning, you're like, I'll just batch import. No, you won't. You will not. You will not do that at all. So what you're going to have to do, so you're like, Rich, do you mean to tell me that I have to go in and individually import these like this? every single one? Yep, that's what you got to do. And so, so let's go ahead and we can just import more of these. I'm not going to import them all. So I'm importing this. And I'm just going to import this other one. There you go. It's right on top of there. I'm just going to go ahead and click and just move this over. But this does bring up a very important point. Now, you would think, hey, I'm just going to mark as asset. We could. Let's see. Let's mark as asset first. And it's showing up. So check this out. So now it's showing up. This marked as asset, right? As soon as I did this, it came down here. So when I do this, it's coming in the other way. So now I have to keep rotating this, right? Every time I bring this in, I mean, now don't get me wrong. This is a kit bashing thing. This looks just fine like this. However, I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit clear asset. So it clears the asset over here. So what I am going to do is I like to go into wireframe or ghost mode or wireframe, whatever you want to call it. Just so I can see through everything, I'm going to drag and select. And then I'm going to hit Control A and I'm going to apply all transforms. So now, let's go back here. I can now highlight these. I can right click them and I can hit mark as asset. They show up as assets, right? These are showing up as assets. So now, when I drag them in, because they look this way, when I drag this in, now we can start doing ourselves a little bit of fancy schmancy kit bashing stuff. There's no material onto them or anything like that, right? So that is that's some of the stuff that you run into with OBJ files. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to leave this here. Oh, by the way, if I wanted to take this and so let's do this. Let's say I like this little part that I have right here, and I know I'm moving this around to where it's I didn't do that because I'm being a little bit lazy right here because I don't want this to take all day because this is long enough as it is, right? So let's say that this structure right here, I like this structure. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to hit Control J so I can join this. And now I'm going to rename this Big Building. And I am going to right click and I'm going to mark as asset. So now this big building is here. So I can just drag this in here. And so I've made this as an asset. And so what I want to do, let's just get our practice in here. Let us go ahead and we're going to save this in the architecture folder, or I'm going to save this at let's. I'm going to save this in the architecture folder just to show you. So we've marked all of these as assets. Let's see. Let's mark the rest of these. Well, no, actually, we should just see these three right here. Or I should just see these three right here. And I'm going to save as a .blend file. Okay, so I am here. I'm in the architecture folder. Again, just going over this again so that you get this. So we will call these tech buildings. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Let's do this. Let's go over here. I am going to I'm going to change the base color just to... So I changed that base color, changed all of them. And so if I save this again... Wait a minute, let's save this. So we can mark these as assets. Now I also got some glass and metal in, like these are lights. That's metal. Let's mark as asset. Sign, mark as asset. Something that I'm missing here? No? Oh, okay. I mean, it just looks really grayed out. But that's fine. I don't really need a whole bunch of textures on my stuff for the purposes that I use Blender in. So I am just going to stop. I'm not going to bring up any categories at all. We're just going to make sure that we save this. So I'll just save. Save and save often. I'm going to go back to new. Go to general. And I'm going to go to architecture. And look at that. We got it. Bam! There it is. So that's OBJ file. So sometimes you're going to have to just do things with OBJ files. Because sometimes they can be very messy. They can be joined together. There can just be some other stuff to them. They can be attached to what are called empties. Sometimes they're all meshed together, etc. So yeah, that's the OBJ files. And so I think this is a good place to stop because I now want to show you the same thing with FBX. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the FBX file. I'm going to go over here. So the person who made the model, and I'm not sure, I'd have to go back, and I'm sorry, I didn't credit the artist to that. Hold on. So that first pack was called Futuristic Low Poly Playset Pack by Hunt Daughtry. It's a great pack. I'm very happy with it. It even has little people on the inside of it, which I didn't even realize. And he has it where you can download FBX MA files, which I think might be Maya, OBJ, and FBX. So there's two different FBX files. I like FBX, and I really don't buy anything unless it has FBX. I don't get any money from that or anything like that. The city file was from, I have to hit pause because I forget where I got it from. Oh, okay. I was looking everywhere for it. So the other one was called Sci-Fi Buildings Pack. And it is by Sergey. It's Tyapkin. And I can't say that without butchering it. So those were the models that I was looking or am using. So just want to credit the artist. Both really good stuff. But it's better when it's FBX. It's just my opinion. So yeah, support them, please. Let me go ahead and I am going to go for import. And I'm going to import the FBX files. Okay, so this is that first model that I showed you guys, and I'm just going to import it as FBX. So you see how that comes in very nice. Very beautiful. Now, there is some stuff that I have to do this, and I'm just saying this because we can mark all of these as assets. And we got these little lines here that are going into this parented object, and I think that's for render purposes. Please correct me if I'm wrong. We can go in and let's do this. I want to get rid of the camera. Now, if I go into wire view and zoom into one of these and I click, this is going into pieces, right? And that's fine because you may want that. Because these are also, if I'm not mistaken, these are low poly, so they might be more for animation. So they're set up that way, which I completely understand that. So I want to highlight this. I'm going to join that. But it's not a selected mesh. Oh no. What happens? What am I doing? So trying to separate these. So this can be really confusing over here. When you have things like this. So this says basic group. And so this is basic group geo. And there's some other things in here. So I think, let's do this. So I'm going to go over to Asset Browser. So if I select this, that's fine, but I want to make sure that I got everything here. So if I hit Shift Select and I select everything, then I mark that as asset. But it only marked that part right there. Oh, I did the wrong thing. So if I go over here and mark as asset, it's giving me this, but as you can see, all right, let's zoom in here. So this is why I Control A everything. So this is this particular ship right here, but it is turned. So now if I add the ship in, it comes in, that's fine. But now it comes in this way. It's not what I want. Highlight, clear assets. And you got to clear them one at a time. I forgot about that. Clear asset. Clear asset. Clear asset. So now what do we do? Well, I mean, yes, we can highlight all of these, but let's do this. So you can do this. It's just going to be in different parts or whatever. But over here, and I think I just want to, let's just, sorry, let me do Control A. So Control A, that's all transforms. So now this is transformed. Am I able to mark this as an asset or no? No. Okay. So let me go back here. So I'm applying all transforms. So let's just highlight everything. Now it's going to save all of this, so we can right click, and I'm sorry, I got to right click over here, mark as asset. We can mark all of them, but let's do this. So if I highlight this, I'm trying to look for it over here, and it just takes a little bit of time. So it's underneath here with the, I think this is the empty. I think this is it. Nope, that's not it. So I'm just going to highlight everything. Actually, I'm going to go to wire view. I'm going to highlight everything. I'm just going to hit mark as asset. So some of these are all together, and that's fine. And some of these are just coming into pieces, which I actually think is a bit better in my opinion. So this is going to take a while. So when you do something like this, this takes a while. And this is actually pretty good. I actually prefer this. Sometimes, like with these sci-fi cars, this allows me to put everything together a little bit more. So shout out to Mr. Daughtry, I believe. Good stuff. You see all this. Oh, and don't freak out when you see this happen. When this is going to get larger, and you just got to wait. You just got to wait for it to, I think it's done because I don't, it's, or not. Wait, where is that? Okay. So now, so these little group things right here, we can get rid of those. As far as I can tell, we can get rid of these. So I can clear that, and clear that. I can clear this asset. I'm not going to go over every single scenario that you can run to, but these are just the most common. And these are, I like low poly stuff because with these vehicles, you can make your own. You can throw them in, obviously, as backgrounds. And so all of this, the ones that don't have the icons, that's the big group things were turned into assets, which you don't need. I will say that if we go over here, let's click onto one of these ships and we go down here, we now can mark this as an asset. And I can now mark this as an asset and mark this as an asset. And then I'm just going to go through. Let's choose this right here. So accessory gray. I think it's pretty much it. I just had black and gray. Yeah, it's accessory gray. That's fine because it's already pretty much gray. Okay. So taillights. Can mark that as an asset. So all of these are assets. And if you wanted to, so we're going to save these in vehicles. So I would save this as, well, actually, we're going to save this. First of all, let's just save this as, I'm going to save this as a .blend file. Hold on. So let's, I'm going to save this. Let's go with all. I'm just going to save it as a .blend file into vehicles. Okay, so I saved it first as low poly. So it's just this right here, and that's fine. So if I go over here into vehicles, it's just going to give me this little folder right here. Now, the thing that I did not do is then categorize them, because I just want to save everything first. Because if anything happens, if anything gets, if Blender crashes, once in a while it'll do that. I at least know that I have this done. So now I can go in and let's just call this complete vehicles, maybe. Complete vehicles. And now if I wanted to add this as a subcategory, I could. But I'm just going to add another one that just says materials. Right. So now I'm going to go back, and remember, this has to be active. So I'm going to click, I want to drag this into complete vehicles. I'm going to drag that into complete vehicles. These scooters are pretty complete. Complete vehicles. That's fine. I'll just get rid of, and when you're doing that, that's okay. Is this a complete one? That looks pretty complete. Sometimes you just got to check, and that's the cool thing about the asset browser. You can just go in and just check on it. Okay. I can roll with this, but let's just see. And I can break this down further. I can just go, I can break this down to, I would say the cockpit of it because it is flying. I think that would be the term there. Or is that the hull? I don't know. I don't know what that would be called. And so here's some other stuff here. These look like their wings and all this other stuff. I don't know what that is, because it came in a little bit too low. Okay. And so now I'm just going to save it again. So I'm going to save. So I should have these in vehicles, in my vehicles. So now if I go up here with new, general, if I go down here, I should have under vehicles, look at this, I got all of them right there, and I even got the subcategory of complete vehicles. And now I can just populate my scene. Oh, and I have this on append instead of append reuse, or I have append reuse data. So, and this is something that I forgot. Import the assets as copied. I would just put append. So I think if I updated one, let's go in here and say I wanted to turn this base color blue. Yeah. So having it on append means that it's going to be independent if you want to make some changes. But then if you put it on append, reuse data, or link, I think link is the one where it just links to the folder itself. But I would have it on append. That's just me. So there you go. There's a 3D browser. I went through some stuff there. You may have to do some work. You may have to import stuff one by one. You may have to, right? And this is what you got to do. It's awesome. It's great. But again, it's tedious. Hopefully you found this helpful. I'm going to stop talking now. All right.